The Boston School Committee began the new year with a new chairperson, originally appointed by Mayor Menino. He's a parent with 3 children in the school system, but also an attorney with experience in higher education. We'd like to welcome Michael Loconto. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
First of all, talk about how your background fits into the assortment of strong suits on the school committee that, in all, in some way, have to do with education.
Well, we've got a great selection of members on the committee right now, and each of us brings something different to the table. And for my own purposes, what I bring to the table is I'm a parent, first and foremost, in the system. I have 3 daughters, all of whom attend the Beethoven, Nuremberger, and West Roxbury. They've been in the system for about 6 years now. And in addition to that, I was a city employee myself. I worked in labor relations in the early 2000s under Mayor Menino. And since that time, I've been a labor attorney, as you mentioned, and I've gone into practice in higher education. And the work that I've done has been to increase labor management partnership and collaboration. Mayor Walsh and I, as a matter of fact, had some dealings with one another earlier in my career. And thinking about the way in which we work, not only with the Boston Teachers Union, but with all of our unions in a collaborative way to make sure that we're putting the best product forward for our students on a daily basis is a primary focus for me.
Well, one focus that's really important right now is safety in the schools. We all know what happened in Florida a few weeks ago. What does this mean to Boston, and why is Boston sort of chipping in here and taking a stand?
Well, we've had traditionally some of the strongest anti-gun laws in the nation, as you know, and our legislators, straight on down from our congressional delegation to our Attorney General, who's got a very important case coming up, as well as our mayor and our police force in taking guns off the street at every opportunity. We've made it our unifying goal to make our cities and our community as safe as possible. And that really extends to our schools. And we've had a long track record in the schools of making that effort to make our schools welcoming places, but safe places for our kids as well.
This gets into details. It could mean the ability to lock doors, or enough social workers or mental health services for the students.
That's right.
Is there really enough of that, you think?
I don't know that there's ever really enough. But with the resources that we have, we've been able to direct an appropriate amount of resources to address those issues. And I'll give you a couple examples of that. So on the socio-emotional side, we've got an Office of Socio-Emotional Learning that's new under Dr. Chang. It's an attempt to unify all the behavioral health services in the district in one operation, so we make sure that they work as best as they can together. And within that, we've heard a lot of testimony in the budget process this year, as a matter of fact, on the ratios that we provide for school nurses. We've increased our allocation of school nurses across the district, ensuring that we have at least a half-time nurse in every school as a result of the last Boston Teachers Union agreement. And we also find ourselves in a recent review quite ahead of the curve with respect to our student to school psychologist ratio. There are some out there that argue that with respect to some of the ratios out there that are called for as best practices, we're not there yet, but we are certainly ahead of our peers in that respect.
There's going to be a budget hearing coming up, and I want to ask you about some of the things that Superintendent Tommy Chang wants to spend more money on. And one of them is early education. Given this long struggle to boost those 3rd grade reading scores, which seems to be pretty hard, how important is that?
It's absolutely important. Study after study shows the importance of early education and getting our kids ready to succeed as early as possible. And so we've made a multi-year commitment in that respect. There's been an increase in the number of K-1 seats every year since I've been on the committee, every year since Mayor Walsh has been our mayor and contributing additional funds each year to the budget for that purpose. And the net effect is that we've got a nation-leading early education program, and I believe we've had Jason Sachs, our early education director, on in the past to talk a little bit more about that. But we've had school districts from across the country come here to learn from what we do, and really it's simple. It's ensuring that we're instilling the basics from the start, making sure that we have qualified, high-quality educators in front of each one of our students.
Another problem the superintendent wants to solve is, at least in the past, that there wasn't enough access to higher-level learning for kids kids who maybe wanted to go into exam school someday. Talk about what he's doing to at least equalize things a bit.
Sure. So there's a couple of initiatives. One of them is the Excellence for All program, and that's in response to a hue and cry around what we've had for a number of years in the district, which is the advanced work classes. Advanced work classes, as we've seen in some reports, can start to track students, which means we separate out kids at a very young age, the haves and the have-nots, if you will. Excellence for All is a program that the district has rolled out in successive years now. We started with fourth grades in a number of schools, and we're now going to be moving into sixth grade with the next budget year, to increase the access for students to high-level learning when they are ready for it. So it's not a one-shot only opportunity. The other effort, and this has again been part and parcel of the mayor's commitment and investment in BPS, is the Exam School Initiative. So that's a summer program where we take students from all over the district in and get them ready to take the test that gets them into the exam schools. And we've increased the seats as well as increased the marketing in a number of neighborhoods.
This has been news, and we're talking with the chair of the Boston School Committee, Michael Loconto. Michael, I'm asking you about one other budget increase that I guess has sort of been questioned by the U.S. Secretary of Education. This is about extended learning time. I guess she's rather skeptical about whether this is worth the money being spent on it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, from our perspective, we have one of the we had, I should say, one of the shortest school days, not only in the Commonwealth, but in the nation. And with our investment that we made in partnership, again, with the Boston Teachers Union a number of years ago, to add 40 minutes to the school day, that's real-time learning. That adds it on the order of 20 additional school days to the regular school year in terms of the learning that children are able to sit through. And we've made critical use of that time. We've left it to schools to fashion programs that are appropriate for their individual school communities, but we see a lot of enrichment, particularly around issues like language, recess, and so on.
We're into a pattern now where the city increases its spending for the schools almost every year, and we keep hearing parents complaining about cuts, and I guess the rest of the story is, what about the state funding? Talk about that.
Well, that's right, and this has been a big conversation up at the State House for a number of years now, and as you probably are aware, there's the Foundation Budget Review Commission that was chaired by local state Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, who's also chair of the Joint Committee on Education at the State House. The Foundation Budget Review Commission took a look at what local aid is for schools, that's sometimes referred to as Chapter 70, and determined that the formula that we use isn't up to snuff for particularly our urban students. It's been lagging behind for a number of years, and FBRC recommendations were to change that formula and to update it so that we would have funding that would more appropriately reflect our urban communities. The issue with Boston, however, is we need to take it a step further. There's something called the Municipal Growth Revenue Factor that's a portion of the formula, and what that takes a look at is property value. And when you look at Boston, we have a lot of high property values. However, that doesn't reflect the very high poverty as well that we find all across the city. We have 3 out of every 4 of our students live in what is regarded as poverty, according to Department of Education guidelines. And so we want to try to right-size that, and there's a bill up there, Senate 223, that seeks to, in addition to implement the FBRC recommendations to change the Chapter 70 formula, also to more accurately take into account the socioeconomic standing of our fellow residents.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Chris. My pleasure.
The chair of the Boston School Committee, Michael Loconto.